The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Gathered on the hillside with the disciples, Jesus began to teach them. Ask, and it will be given to you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds. And for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good things to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. For this is the law and the prophets. The Gospel of the Lord. One of the three disciplines of Lent is prayer, and prayer is the theme for today's readings. We begin with that first reading from the book of Esther. If you remember that story, Esther was a Jew, a young woman who was conscripted into a pagan empire. Against her will, she eventually became queen to a powerful king, Xerxes. Now, there was intrigue going on in the empire at the time because there was a person second in command to the king by the name of Haman. And Haman was a very proud person. He wanted everyone to bow down to him. Queen Esther's older cousin, Mordecai, a faithful Jew, would only bow down to God. And that irked Haman so much that he wanted to wipe out the Jews altogether. So he convinced the king somehow to give him authority over the Jews. And now he was going to exercise that authority to bring a decree that all the peoples in the land could confiscate the property of the Jews and actually put them to death. Queen Esther, being a Jew, wanted to protect her people, but there was a problem. In the kingdom, the rule said, no one can approach the king unless the king had first asked for that person to approach. If they approached without that permission and the king did not extend his hand or his scepter, that was the death penalty. And that included the queen. And she had not been summoned before the king for some 30 days. She felt she had fallen out of favor with the king. So she was very reluctant to come before him, but Mordecai brought this to her attention. And this is what he said. I'm going to quote right from the book of Esther. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. That prompted the queen, Esther, to now seek the Lord for courage. And the first reading that we just heard was her prayer to God for courage, so that she would approach the king. Notice in the prayer, she refers to remembrance, because she was brought up a Jew, and she remembered all the teachings that were given to her by her own father, going back to the covenant that God had made with her forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This covenant that God would protect his people. She is now saying to God, remember the covenant you made way back to our fathers. Keep your promise now because we are in peril. That theme of remembrance is a really important part of our prayer. Because when we pray, we are asking God to remember his mercy and to remember the covenant that he had made with our forefathers as well. And one of the great ways to pray that prayer is exactly what you're doing this evening. You come here to Mass, the highest form of prayer possible in the church, and the Mass is a remembrance. We remember the cross. Now, we weren't there 2,000 years ago when Christ died, but that bloody sacrifice on the cross is being represented in an unbloody manner right now in this Mass, and we are remembering what Christ has done for us. And in that confidence, we're asking now God extend to us his mercy. We want to bring our own offerings and unite them with the offerings of Christ to the Father that he's making in this Mass, this unbloody sacrifice. So we bring our lives, our prayer intentions, our sufferings, our joys, our hopes to this Mass. And then, just like Queen Esther, we reflect on our own lives that we were born for such a time as this, to bring the faith that we have and the prayers for others and for ourselves to God, for God to answer. That's why in the Gospel, Jesus says to all people, especially us, ask and it will be given to you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. God is pleading with us to pray, to bring to his attention the things that we need because he wants relationship with us, and that comes through prayer. So it's good that you're here. We are a community, and we're praying to God for deliverance, for our own needs and the needs of the world. Listen carefully to that Eucharistic prayer that's going to follow shortly, because that word remembrance is in the Eucharistic prayer several times. We're asking God to remember those who have died, our parents, our godparents, whoever in our family, and to remember his covenant and to bring mercy upon the world. So with that, let us rejoice, and with Queen Esther, place our hope in God.